The $10,000 price on a killer's head was no ordinary bounty. It was a staggering amount, enough to make even the most seasoned bounty hunters take notice. But it wasn't just the money that made this case unique, it was the identity of the target, a man so notorious and elusive that his name had become synonymous with terror in the dark corners of the underworld. His name was Victor LaGraine, a ruthless hitman with a reputation for getting away scot-free. His latest victim was a young woman named Sarah Johnson, a 25-year-old nurse who had been brutally murdered in her apartment just days ago. The police were stumped, and the family was left reeling from the loss. But it wasn't until they received an anonymous tip that the investigation took a dramatic turn. The caller claimed to have information about LaGraine's whereabouts, but there was a catch: he wanted something in return. He asked for $10,000, a sum that seemed exorbitant at first glance, but the authorities knew it could be worth every penny. The question on everyone's mind was who would pay the price. Would it be a rival bounty hunter looking to claim the reward and bring LaGraine to justice? Or perhaps someone with a personal vendetta against the hitman? The possibilities were endless, and the stakes had never been higher. In the heart of the United States, where deserts stretch endlessly and highways seem to fade into the horizon, a peculiar phenomenon unfolded. A $10,000 price had been placed on the head of one Daniel the Ghost Griffin, a man with a reputation for being untouchable. This was no ordinary bounty, it was a staggering amount that caught the attention of even the most seasoned professionals in the field. Daniel Griffin, alias the Ghost, had evaded capture for over 2 decades, leaving behind a trail of unsolved crimes and shattered lives. His modus operandi was as elusive as he was, seemingly targeting random victims with no discernible connection between them, leaving investigators baffled. With a string of 7 brutal murders across the country, authorities were at their wits' end. It wasn't just the money that made this case unique, it was the attention-grabbing nature of the offer itself. The bounty had been posted by an anonymous source, fueling speculation about the motives behind such a significant investment. Was it a vigilant citizen trying to make a difference? A vengeful relative seeking justice for a loved one? Or perhaps something more sinister? As news of the bounty spread like wildfire through law enforcement channels and underground networks, experts began to scratch their heads. The amount, $10,000, was a sum that would normally be reserved for high-profile fugitives or those with ties to organized crime. But Daniel Griffin's past was shrouded in mystery, his crimes were not linked to any known gang affiliations or rivalries. Theories swirled about the purpose behind this bounty. Some speculated it was an attempt by authorities to flush out a notorious cop killer, while others thought it might be part of a larger sting operation. Whatever the truth may have been, one thing remains certain: with the $10,000 price on his head, Daniel the Ghost Griffin had become the most wanted man in the country. As the investigation into the murder of prominent businessman Richard Langley continued to unfold, a shocking revelation emerged. The killer's identity was none other than James the Ghost Griffin, a notorious hitman with a string of high-profile targets under his belt. Griffin's reputation preceded him, he was known for always staying one step ahead of the law, never leaving a trail that could be easily followed. But what made this case even more intriguing was the sheer audacity of Griffin's most recent crime. Langley had been murdered in broad daylight, with multiple witnesses placing the killer at the scene. Yet despite an extensive manhunt and numerous leads, Griffin remained at large until now. A cryptic message sent to the police department claimed that a member of Griffin's inner circle was willing to come forward and reveal crucial information about the hitman's whereabouts. This anonymous tipster had a reputation for being trustworthy, having provided valuable intel in the past that led to several high-profile arrests. The police were eager to follow up on this lead, hoping it would be the break they needed to finally apprehend Griffin. But there was a catch: the informant demanded immunity from prosecution in exchange for their testimony. The $10,000 bounty had been posted by Langley's widow, determined to bring justice to her husband's memory. She was willing to do whatever it took to ensure that Griffin paid for his crimes. As the police deliberated over the informant's request, They couldn't help but wonder, would this new information be enough to finally bring the ghost down? As the $10,000 price on a killer's head continues to circulate, it's essential to examine the real-world implications of such a bounty. This staggering amount is unprecedented in modern times, even surpassing the most notorious cases of the past. The figure is so substantial that it raises questions about who would be willing and able to pay such an exorbitant sum. One possible candidate could be a government agency or law enforcement organization seeking to make a high-profile arrest. However, considering the identity of the target, a man with a reputation for evading capture, it's more likely that private interests are driving this bounty. The fact that the price is set by an anonymous source only adds to the intrigue. Some might argue that the $10,000 reward is too small given the gravity of the crimes attributed to this individual. Considering the scale of human suffering and loss he has allegedly caused, a reward of $100 million or more would be more fitting. Alternatively, others could see it as an attempt by law enforcement to test the waters, gauging public interest and willingness to pay for information leading to his capture. The psychological impact on the target himself cannot be overstated. Knowing that there's a significant price on one's head can be both demoralizing and motivating. It may lead him to become increasingly paranoid, as he tries to eliminate potential threats and maintain control over his surroundings. On the other hand, it could also embolden him, making him feel invincible in the face of adversity. In light of these considerations, one must ask, who will pay this $10,000 bounty? Will it be a lone individual driven by personal vendetta or a group of individuals seeking to make a profit from his capture? As we delve deeper into this case, one thing is certain: only time will tell what ultimate consequences will unfold. The trail was growing cold, and the bounty hunters who had taken on the case were beginning to lose hope. They had been tracking Victor Martinez for months, following a series of cryptic leads and tips that seemed to lead nowhere. But they knew they couldn't give up, not when the reward was so high. Martinez was no ordinary fugitive. He was a convicted murderer with a long history of violence, and his crimes were both brutal and calculated. The police had been searching for him for years, but he always managed to stay one step ahead. As the bounty hunters dug deeper, they began to uncover some disturbing facts about Martinez's past. It turned out that he had been involved in at least 5 other murders, all of which seemed to be linked by a strange symbol carved into the victims' bodies. The symbol was unlike anything the police had ever seen before, a twisted mix of Latin and ancient languages. The investigators were baffled by this new information. They didn't know what it meant or how it connected to Martinez's crimes. But they knew one thing for sure: this case was getting bigger, and the stakes were higher than ever before. Suddenly, a shocking revelation emerged. A trusted informant had come forward with some explosive testimony. Victor Martinez was not working alone. He had a partner, someone who had been hiding in plain sight all along. The informant's identity remained a secret, but one thing was clear: this case had just taken a dark and sinister turn. As the sun sets on another day in the city, the $10,000 price on a killer's head remains unsolved. The bounty has been out for months, and it seems that even the most seasoned hunters are unable to crack the case. But the question remains: who will finally claim the reward? For some, the allure of the bounty is too great to resist. They've dedicated their lives to tracking down fugitives, and the promise of a $10,000 payday is too enticing to ignore. Others may see this as an opportunity to make a name for themselves in the world of bounty hunting. One thing is certain: the identity of the target has been shrouded in mystery since day one. His name is whispered in fear by those who know him, and his crimes are too numerous to count. The $10,000 price tag is just a small fraction of the cost he's put on the city. As we look back on this case, it's clear that there's more at play than meets the eye. The complex web of alliances and rivalries between bounty hunters and law enforcement officials has made it difficult for anyone to get close to the target. But with every passing day, the stakes grow higher. The question is no longer just about who will claim the reward, but also what this case says about our society as a whole. Do we value justice above all else, or are there other considerations at play?